Welcome back to Cord Cutting Today, where we break down some of the biggest stories happening in the world of cord cutting, including today, cord cutting 2.0 is once again rearing its ugly head for Comcast and Spectrum and other cable internet providers. We'll tell you just how many customers switched over to Verizon's 5G home internet in the last 3 months. Media and cable companies are laying off more employees. We got the breakdown there of what's happening. Apple TV is in trouble. What's happening exactly with Apple TV? Why are there rumors and growing concerns over the service? These stories and a whole lot more coming up in a quick minute. First though, you can find a link to every story I talk about, the ones I just mentioned, and more to come, in the show notes and in the first pinned comment. I'll put a link to each video there. If you're new here and you like what we do, please consider hitting that subscribe button or hitting that thumbs up. Doing one or both lets YouTube know you enjoy what we do here, so YouTube recommends our videos to more people. With that said, let's dive into it. Verizon reported its second quarter 2024 earnings and once again saw huge growth in its 5G home internet service, adding over 378,000 subscribers in just 3 months. This comes as the cord cutting 2.0 trend is taking foot and growing very rapidly. Now, cord cutting 2.0 is the idea that with 1.0 you canceled your cable television service, and your 2.0 you're canceling your cable internet for new options. Just a few years ago, most people only had 1 or 2 options for internet. Now increasingly people are having 4, 5, 6 or more. Now I will get tons of comment that, oh, I only have 1 option. Maybe, but probably not, because 5G home internet's rolling out in many parts, and T-Mobile and Verizon have both said they plan to continue to expand its availability this year and next year. There's also things like SpaceX Starlink, fiber expanding in many markets. I now have 2 fiber providers where I live, 5G home internet from T-Mobile and cable internet. That's before I even get to things like Starlink satellite internet and other options. Increasingly, there's more and more options than ever, and that's why I think we're seeing so many people switch. Verizon is really pushing its 5G home internet, and in the 3 months it added an additional 378,000 customers. Now, it probably added a lot more, but some people canceled. This is the growth we're seeing there. Overall, reports have said 5G home internet customers are significantly happier with their service than compared to cable. I think it's a price point. That's why we're seeing Comcast launch things like Comcast Now Internet, so that they can offer cheap discounted internet for their services at similar speeds to what 5G home internet is. As I've said before, most people don't need the speed they're paying for. For example, if you have 200 down, you can easily do 6 simultaneous 4K streams and surf the web and do all kinds of other things. Now, home internet is something you're going to pay for even if you had cable TV, because let's be honest, most people have smart speakers, webcams, all kinds of stuff that they want to have online, not just their television. But because of that, we're seeing a trend of people saying, do I really need, yeah, Comcast is coming out with a 10 gig service. Yeah, let's be honest, what are you going to be using that for if you're just an average person? And even a gig service for most people, if you're not a heavy gamer, probably don't care. It probably doesn't really impact you much. You're not going to notice a big difference in Netflix on a gig versus Netflix on 100 or 200 gig or 200 megabyte internet. I apologize. So we'll keep a close eye on this. T-Mobile will be reporting its earnings in about a month. I suspect T-Mobile will show huge growth in their 5G home internet service. And I think Verizon, T-Mobile, and even AT&T's 5G home internet will continue to see rapid growth as people look for cheaper options for their internet service. Speaking of which, that's impacting media and cable TV companies in growing numbers. Last year we learned that Paramount was laying off about 20% of all of its employees. Warner Bros. Discovery just announced it's laying off about 1,000 employees. Fox is eliminating 30. And we see other ones like cable companies like Spectrum laying off 1,000 of its customer service employees for a variety of reasons. This comes as they try to cut costs to deal with the growth of cord cutting. For Spectrum and others, they're not only losing television customers, but they're losing internet customers. It's part of that cord cutting 2.0 trend that sees people growing. So leave me a comment, let me know. Have you canceled your cable internet, switched to other providers? And let me put this right out there right now. I know I'm going to get a bunch of comments from people saying, I don't have any other options. I bet you would be surprised. Maybe use some Facebook groups, or Nextdoor is another good app to ask people what's available where you live. Check out 5G home internet, satellite. I think you'd be surprised with the quality of it. Link in the show notes if you want to learn more about those stories. All right, Apple TV Plus has been struggling for some time. Its subscriber numbers have never quite hit, I think, what the executives at Apple expected. And a lot of their customers are still on free trials because there's so many ways to get free Apple TV Plus if you buy an Apple product. Well, according to a report from Bloomberg, internal sources reveal that the company is looking into cutting back. We've already seen them cut back in some of the original programming, but that they are looking even closer at what they're spending on content. They've been spending big and big name content with big name stars and some big hits. For All Mankind, Silo. By the way, the Silo book's really good. Haven't seen the TV show, but the books are amazing. And more. Now they're looking at reevaluating all that. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The problem Apple TV Plus has is lack of content. Yeah, they have some really great stuff, but you can binge watch it in a month and then move on. Recently, they have been trying to add in a back catalog of content. It's still minuscule compared to what like Max, Paramount Plus, Peacock, and others have. And because of that, I think people are struggling to justify it. Okay, so you like Silo, maybe you get it for a month, and then you're canceling. You don't want to pay for a year of Apple TV Plus because there's only a handful of shows on it each year that are new, and you can binge watch them quickly in a month. I think Apple is going to fall victim of the fact that there's no long-term contracts. People see it as not worthy of paying for a full year. They would rather pay for it maybe only when there's shows on, or only maybe once the show's completely been released to binge watch the whole thing for a month. I think streaming services have to strongly consider what they're spending or how much content they have. And I think that's why you're seeing things like talks of Paramount Plus and Max or Paramount Plus and Peacock merging into a single streaming service to give you more content. More content makes you more likely to subscribe. That's why we see bundle deals. If you subscribe to 3 at once, you get a discounted price. It's a way to get more content in there to keep you subscribed for longer. We'll keep a close eye on this, but I'll be honest. If Apple TV Plus doesn't find a way to get a ton of additional content, I think they're going to struggle to ever become profitable because there's just not enough there to keep people subscribed month after month after month. All right, Reddit's going to get some video from NFL and NBA. Now, Reddit's been for some time partnering with sports leagues to bring content. Today, they announced a partnership deal that will see all these networks be offering video highlights and more on Reddit, or all these leagues, I'm sorry. NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA Tour, and NASCAR will all be bringing content to Reddit. Now, Reddit sees this as a way to try to generate ad revenue, putting ads on videos, offering highlights and more on their website. Reddit has a huge sports community. I love Reddit for sports. It's a great way to keep in touch. You got college football, basketball, all these subreddits specific for teams and more. I could see how Reddit will say, hey, here's a Michigan football subreddit. We're going to put highlights of Michigan's most recent football game on there. People are going to watch, discuss, and talk about. We'll get ad revenue from it. But it's one more example of how increasingly people are looking at video as a way to become more profitable. We'll keep a close eye on it going forward. But Reddit, your new way to watch highlights of sports. All right, last story up of the day. Sinclair continues to make cuts to its local news as it stops offering local news on some stations. Sinclair, for a year or more now, has been cutting back on how many stations offer local news as it tries to cut costs. They're also doing all kinds of things. For example, Greensboro, a station they own in Greensboro, North Carolina, local news is actually being produced out of San Antonio, Texas. It allows them to have one studio for multiple TV stations, different time zones. They do the 6 o'clock news in Greensboro, and then they flip over and they do it for San Antonio, for example. Look for that to become more and more common. While Sinclair owns 2 stations in El Paso, they're shutting down news on one and going basically simulcast some news from the other. I've seen Nexstar and others do the same thing. Sinclair has also replaced some local news programming with national news from a national desk for smaller markets. Sinclair and others are sometimes looking around and saying, hey, we just can't justify it. Yes, we would love to have local news, but maybe you're the 4th or 5th largest news station in that market. Well, there's 2 or 3 other stations. Why don't we just let them do the news and we'll focus on other content because we're getting a very small market share. Doesn't sound like a big problem. You say, oh yeah, so maybe the CBS isn't offering news, but Fox, ABC, NBC are, and you know, that's fine, right? Well, what happens when other stations do that? Increasingly, with the death of local newspapers, local television is the only major local news source for many markets. As that cuts back, that raises big concerns about local news coverage, especially in smaller and even some mid-sized markets in the United States. We'll have to keep a very close eye on it. But has one of your local TV stations cut back? A long time ago, one of ours did, both owned by Nexstar. One was kind of in a separate market. Well, they now just air the NBC News on the ABC station they own there also. Well, leave me a comment. Let me know if that's impacted you at all. Well, that's it for today. No Q&A because it's actually quite late in the day for me. It's been a very long day here as we try to do all the fun summer things with our kids in the evening. But I hope you have a fantastic day. If you have a question for me, leave a comment. Start off with a question for Luke, and I'll do my best to answer them in the comments down below. Until next time, take care, be safe. I'll be back again real soon.